a live stream with Joost Mertens from Vripack. And the reason that we wanted to do this was that the video that we produced of Doggersbank exceeded all expectations on how many people viewed it. I think we're at 45,000 now, which is quite remarkable, actually. And there was a lot of questions. So I thought we'd start, Joost, by I'll ask you a few questions about Doggersbank. And then if we get more viewers come along and they have their own questions, you can answer other people's questions too. And if we don't, at least there'll be something on YouTube with more information from the man himself. Because well, first of all, let's start with Doggersbank itself. It is the strangest or the most unusual name I've ever heard for a yacht. Where does that come from?
Where does it come from? Well, here in the North Sea, just north of the Netherlands, and between the UK and the Netherlands, we find a very shallow sandbank, actually. A very famous war between the British and the Dutch hundreds of years ago was fought in that area. And traditionally, there's a lot of fish in that region. So the Dutch fishing fleet often fishes there, those waters. And it's as well an area even further back in time where people lived when at the time in the old ice age, where the British islands and the Netherlands were connected.
Oh,
So it's a sort of ancient site. So it's a and at the time Bone was designing the first Doggersbanks. He needed a name, and and I'm not 100% sure, but I can totally imagine that looking at the shape of the vessels with their full displacement, round belly, hull shape, they have a very strong connection to the fishing vessels here in the Netherlands. Also, board which we might talk later in this streaming, but that's I think a very beautiful connection with those waters, harsh conditions
yeah.
sometimes.
Interesting. So actually, many years ago, the Netherlands and the UK were connected, apparently. I had no idea. Some people would wish they still were, I think.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. And on the other hand, there are also people that like the fact that it's disconnected now.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you, and by the way, we have quite a few more people now listening. So I want to encourage everybody who's listening, if you have your own questions for Joost, just put it in the chat. I can see it here, and I'll let you know, Joost, of questions that come in. But you you actually work with Vripack, who are the designers. So what's the association between Vripack and Doggersbank?
That's a very fair question. A lot of people ask. So, Vripack was founded in 1961 by Mr. Dick Bone, first designing small sailing vessels to start with, and the first design, the first I think it was the first motorboat design was in 1964, and soon after in '66, a returning client, came along and asked for a design with full displacement hull shape, and they called it the Dog. It was built and launched in 1968. So we see that as the first, let's say, Doggersbank design from Vripack, nowadays called Sienna. Those boats became very popular, and in the early 90s, Dick Bone even started Aluminium, a BV here in Holland. Together with a builder, a painter, a carpenter, if I'm correct, and a sales agency. It didn't last long, so they terminated the limited after a while. But Dick registered the brand name Doggersbank, and he continued it, and we continued it afterwards, still today. And it was kind of a sleeping brand, and I joined Barton Marnix in promoting our expertise. I said, well, maybe there's merit in reawakening the brand.
Actually, one of the viewers of the video that we did knew that about Dick Bone because he said this is Dick Bone's company, and I was like, I don't know who that is, but from what you've said, the viewer was absolutely correct. But back then, when he was building the older Doggersbank, was Vripack involved with the whole design then?
All the time, and
Always, yeah.
has design rights on all the Doggersbanks still today.
Right. So it's not like you guys bought the brand and now this is a whole new, different concept. It's still continuing the same concept.
Yes, exactly. In that way, I always compare Doggersbank with the Export Association. So we bring together question and product. So if the design is a proven concept, we have a lot of knowledge on the shelf here in archive in Vripack, and we connect that to potential buyers, potential owners, and we know a lot of shipyards because Vripack is an independent design firm. And knowing a lot of shipyards, we also know where we can continue the level of quality that we aim for with Doggersbank. Had this point within the Netherlands, and see if we can bring more Doggersbanks on the water.
And I guess in the Netherlands, one of the advantages you've got is that the quality is fairly consistent, isn't it? It's not like, some countries, well, I'll say it, Turkey, for example, who have some really great shipyards and some really awful shipyards as well. There's not a consistency of quality. From what I've seen in Holland, there's a much higher consistency. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, as a Dutchman, I would say yes. And I think that's an interesting viewpoint there. And within the companies that I've talked to, I totally agree on that. So I've let's say visited various shipyards to see if they are capable in building Doggersbank and willing and have the capacity to do this. And luckily found a few that also follow the same philosophy of quality and work ethics and communication with clients and all that. Yeah, that matters. The whole process of building and purchasing yourself into a Doggersbank.
Great. Do you know how many Doggers banks have been built? How many are out there on the ocean?
On the ocean, well, the offshore, several, I think 20 in total, but in total, going back to 1968, we've over 200 boats being built. So I've
Oh,
tracked the last 2 years most of the boats, most of the builds, and I'm now collecting most of the owners, trying to assemble a community around
okay.
this. They've gone really spread out all over the place.
Yeah, I can imagine. Once again, anybody watching, if they want to ask any questions, they're very welcome to. But I have another question for you. When you were reviving the brand, did it
Mhm.
never occur to you maybe to build in GRP instead of steel? Has that ever been a discussion?
Well, GRP can be interesting from, let's say, multiple serial production point of view. I think for a single build, it's very time and money consuming effort. It's also lighter,
Yeah,
and I strongly believe in the steel aluminum construction in Doggersbank because of the position of the center point of gravity in those vessels and what that, let's say, results in performance and comfort. We have built aluminum vessels, nice.
yeah.
Tivoli, now Belle Sea, was built in was one of the one Doggersbank built in Turkey time in turquoise was built in aluminum, which is, I think, in weight comparable to GRP. Rule of thumb, it's especially at the time. Um,
So you
so
did build a Doggers Bank in Turkey in turquoise, which is a great yard, by the way.
the only one was built there,
Yeah,
but the other ones are all built here in Holland, as far I can
right.
recall.
Now there was also quite a few questions. Well, quite a few. There was a couple of questions that were from the video that I wanted to ask you. One was from a guy called Duncan James 914, and he obviously really watched closely the video because he noticed. Well, first of all, he said he'd like more details about the propulsion system, and he said he noticed that in the video, one yacht had a shrouded shaft and propeller, the other didn't. Um, so, do the various different models have various different solutions for propulsion?
Yeah, each model, and we've seen that in the past. That's how it's always been. Is approached on a semi-custom, let's say, conversation. So we always start from from a previous, let's say, hull or concept or platform, and each owner has always made his own changes. Can be
Yeah.
in the small deviations on the exterior, top deck layout, fixed furniture, but also in the machinery and propulsion.
Oh,
Well,
really? You'll allow you're happy for the owners to even change the propulsion systems.
well, in all the boats, it has always been a shaft line propulsion.
Yeah.
Other than that, but indeed there have been different solutions in engine power, even within the same uh, propeller configurations and with or without nozzle.
Yeah.
And ship that you've seen in the video from the yacht module from Katia, it also had an articulated rudder. It's also something that we've done in the past. Very famous vessel Constant, an old one
Yeah.
from 78, if I recall correct, had an articulated rudder comparable to the one now in build, but it's very specific for owners. And I think the beauty and also the process of yeah, um, becoming a Doggersbank owner is a process of getting to know your boat and getting into the conversation of ship design, not relying on that proven concept. On everything in those designs has been basically done before. So it's more like a assembly, I would say, of the bits and pieces that meet your own ideas or experience, um, than starting from scratch all the time.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of comments as well from people who thought that the Doggers Bank had a single prop, but I don't think that's the case, is it? You're using twin props.
Two
Yeah.
ideas. I think we're very good experience with the double propeller setup, but in the past also have done various single prop setups, especially in
Well, you
the
have. Right.
in the current 77 in build owner was really fond of a single prop uh, configuration
Yeah.
later rotor. So yeah, that's feasible. It's possible, and we reshaped the whole shape to meet the single, let's say, alignment.
Yeah.
Uh, we have in-house CFD, sea keeping analysis, so we can then optimize that hull form for him on that new, let's say, configuration.
Actually, as I was looking through the comments, the 77 was the most talked about boat in the comments. People were really interested in that. They're very interested in the price, but I guess it's difficult to give a price without knowing, is it going to be single prop, twin prop? Yeah, without really knowing more details, I guess it's pretty difficult to put a price on it, isn't it?
I'm not going to reveal too much about the vessel itself, but in this case, the owner wants in various ways the best of the best. So it's very difficult to mention a price there. If somebody goes ballistic in interior materials or design,
Yeah,
which from the design studio Vripack, but in materialization, that can be really far apart.
yeah. By the way, we have a question from a viewer from Fish Tiger, who is a regular viewer of the channel and also has a lot of experience. I'm pretty sure Fish Tiger, you've worked on yachts, if my memory serves, but I know that you certainly know your stuff. So he asks, on an aft deck control station, could you have two separate rudder controls to make it super maneuverable?
Uh, yeah, basically you can. I think that's one of the beauties in this what I just explained. You can customize it to your own, let's say, experience or need. Uh, we've seen over the years, especially here in the other designs in Vripack, is that in this size range, in particular, a lot of components get electric. So stepping down from hydraulic into electric, both thrusters and other stern thrust and other elements on the boat. Sometimes with a local hydraulic pack, but comfort increases because of noise and heat that usually is known with hydraulics. But the beauty here in maneuverability is that with handheld controls, for example, with the DockMate installation, you can enhance user experience
How
tremendously.
does that work? The dock mate, is that the thing that you actually carry around with you to maneuver?
Yeah. So you're flexible wherever you are, and with the bow and stern thruster, you have maximum maneuverability in port. even in a way you could add station keeping in harbor, but this is all, let's say, customizable with the suppliers in the supply chain that we've in mind.
By the way, Fish Tiger has just confirmed that he has worked on large yachts since 1986. So that's that's going back some, isn't it?
Great. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I wasn't even in the industry. I got in the industry in '93. How long have you been? Did you go sort of straight from university into yachting?
Yeah, I think now 16 years ago, started as an intern here. Even longer, 20 years ago already, 2003. And then I just stayed here. I worked as designer for over
Yeah,
10 years, and then moved along in the company. But it's great fun. There's a lot of flexibility in the team, in the company.
yeah,
Positions to also test yourself and improve yourself. So I've always still be challenged. So
yeah.
it's
Vripack always seems like a fun place to me. Um, there was another question, but I haven't written it down. But let's just see first of all, is there any questions from the viewers at all? What do you have in construction at the moment at Doggersbank, and what's your potential to take orders?
good question. I like that. First of all, we have one now in build. Another one has launched just last year. Just went on the water back again after warranty in the spring. The one in build is expected to be ready by the end of this year, but I personally think it's going to be early next year. It's a 77. That yard has capacity to build another one in Altina at the moment, in this size range, and we've been in contact with several yards here in the Netherlands that also have capacity to pick up a build. Yeah.
We've just had a comment, it's not a question, but from Chris O'Leary, who says, shout outs from the coastal SC Low Country. Does that
Right,
mean anything to you?
not to me, but
Don't mean any- but I'm going to Google it afterwards what the coastal SC Low Country is. Now, as you know, Katia and I are working on a series of 2 videos where we'll sort of pose as fictitious clients to show what the build process is. And also, we're going to ask you for a price. So, we're going to be saying to you, actually, I don't know if Katia has told you, but she had a very good idea. She said we should do, Coastal SC Low Country is South Carolina. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for joining us from South Carolina. So, yeah, Katia had the great idea of asking you to spec one boat as if it was for a single woman, such as she is, and the other one for somebody like me who's has a family with 3 grown-up children. So we'll be coming to you in the next few weeks with our requests for 2 models. I was going to do the 2 bigger models, but when I read how interested people are in the 77, I may well do the 77 as an example, sort of specking it out to see the build time, the cost, of course, what the options are, what we can do. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Or the 105, which is our let's say uh, the flagship model of
Yeah.
the.
I might let Katia have the 105 and I'll have a 77.
You would perfectly fit in with the family lifestyle, and I like that. The beauty of many of the clients is that they like the family life on the boats, and that's always pleasant as a human being to work for. I think it's a beautiful ambition to follow. I think Katja would be the ideal client to have a lady stepping into something like the 105 and maximize water sport fun and play with
I
design.
think so too.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
We have another question, by the way, and this is the question I did wonder if we were going to get. So prepare yourself. Richard Boot, he says, why would you choose a Bearing 72 over a Doggersbank? Then he says, over. I suppose meaning over to us. So there were a lot of comments
I
comparing Bearing with Doggersbank.
A lot of people have chosen Baring over Doggersbank, and I think Baring is doing a wonderful job. They've done a lot of great designs, fun. I think they've been very competitive. That's also what they market. So in that they've achieved what they aim for. I've never compared Doggersbank to Bering. I don't see Doggersbank as a competitor. I don't see Bering necessarily, although obviously you attract the same explorer lifestyle people.
Yeah.
I've never studied it in detail, I must say. I think, and that's only my assumption at this level, that price is something that people would scare off in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. Assume it's going to be exceptionally high price.
Yeah.
Um, but it's in a way also a different product. I remember that at some point somebody told me that Bering had aluminum in build. We focus on steel aluminum only. So
Yeah, I think Bering are mostly steel, but they have quite a big range of other yachts as well now. So Fish, hope that helped, Richard Boots. Fish Steger's back with the question: where does Doggersbank gain space and distance tankage under the 24-meter rules?
that's a nice one. Under the floor, significantly, I would say. That's one of the benefits of being full displacement. So you have a lot of volume in the ship. I've been on several lighter built semi displacement and light displacement vessels, lighter displacement. And with full displacement, with the weight of the steel and the construction and the machinery in those boats, you gain a lot of floor area, floor space on the interior side, but also tank volume down below in the bilge. And let's say tank deck level, even on the 24-meter on the 77. And that is something which is, I would say, fluid. Nice, nice word. But if somebody needs more range, and we've just gone through such a request and design process, if somebody wants to increase the range, we can reposition or remodel the arrangement of boats,
Yeah,
run the trim and stability, verify the feasibility on that, and allow him for more tank space. But it always, on the other hand, for storage space down below the floor, or technical space for water makers or whatever you want to
yeah.
place. Otherwise, tank.
I've often made this comment in some of my videos that when you look at the range of various yachts and you want to compare, you can't just compare the range, you have to compare the size of the fuel tank. Because if one yacht's got twice the size of the fuel tank as the other, it's going to have a bigger range, isn't it? So it doesn't necessarily reflect on the optimization of the hull shape in giving the yacht range. And that's something that Vripack are very well specialists in, isn't it? A lot of your businesses with hull shapes.
Correct. And what I find even more interesting to bring into that mix is fuel consumption. And when we reawaken the brand, I I was from the start interested in those fuel consumption numbers. Now I'm like, okay, so we have an old design. Will it be significantly worse than a new design or a competitive
Yeah.
design, even to a lighter or GRP design? So we've compared various numbers and noticed that the even old designs still compete or even outperform current designs on fuel efficiency. And it is a bit, yeah, it's not my expertise because I'm not a naval architect, but it has to do obviously with the streamlining of the underwater body and the way it has been designed and carefully crafted to optimize the hydrostatic performance.
Yeah, and I've seen yachts with great range, but they're very, very slim hulls. And so then, okay, you've got range, but you don't have the volume. I guess the challenge is to find the right compromise where you've still got plenty of space, but still got good range.
Yeah, or you look into fuel consumption there, and you have narrow, let's say narrow beam, you have a certain range, and then limited tankage. So you must be very fuel efficient, and you
Yeah,
probably into the numbers. So
sure. By the way, Richard Boot has just clarified. He said that Bering's new catamaran is built in alloy, and also their tender cat. He says as far as I know, everything else is built in steel. That's right. They've got a new range of catamarans which are aluminium.
Yeah.
Have Vripack ever been involved with a GRP yacht, or has it always been steel? Yeah,
Oh no, we've passed, particularly in the smaller designs,
yeah.
not in the big designs, but definitely, definitely.
Great. Well, I just want to make sure there's no other questions. We've actually had quite a good turnout for this live stream. As I mentioned to you earlier, the nice thing is this now stays on YouTube. And what I'll do is I'll link it to the original Doggersbank video so that if people want more information, they can watch this. Anything that you wanted to add before we conclude?
Not per se. I think the beauty is the connection with the video from Katia that she made here in the studio and on the shipyard. A lot is explained about what Doggersbank stands for. But I think it's definitely worth mentioning that the video on YouTube reveals a lot of, let's say, um, philosophy behind the brand, the pillars that I really rely on, like comfort, expertise, and safety, and how they why they are what they are, and that's in
Yeah.
the actual shipbuilding and naval architecture, um, origin of the design, I would say.
Yeah. And actually, I think we mentioned to you that if you can find an owner who's happy for us to send a film crew to his boat, we'd love to do a walkthrough of a finished Doggersbank. Let me do the other two videos that I mentioned earlier. Um, just says right, but bearing superstructure is actually aluminium and the hulls are steel. That's true, Savvy Ministries, but that's also true of Doggersbank, is it not? Is also it's quite normal, isn't it, to have aluminium superstructure and steel hull.
Yeah, and maybe I should investigate this in further detail one day. But as I said, I've never really compared myself as a competitor and the other way around. I don't feel it that way, at least. There are other might be more competitive in marketing and name and fame. Also doing a good job, which I respect.
Yeah.
Uh,
My friends over at the Naughty Styles YouTube channel have brought a tremendous amount of attention to bearing. They're actually building a bearing themselves as well, which is great. I can't offer that for Doggers Bank, unfortunately, but yeah, they've certainly enjoyed a great sort of rise to fame on YouTube. That's for sure.
it's obviously fantastic, and the fun is, and I'm really proud of that. That our owners are willing to collaborate in journey articles.
Yeah,
Uh, what we do, we connect our yeah, favorite writer Julia Salzman to owners.
yeah,
I facilitate the connection, and she picks up from there and collects imagery, videos if necessary. She does the interviewing about a particular trip,
yeah.
which shares a little bit of proof of concept about what the ship's capable of, or where it can bring people, what it can add to the itinerary, and she makes beautiful articles about it. You can find them on our website. We share them with newsletters with clients, also about the refit coming up. So I think that we've never reached the same as where it with Naughty Styles, but I'm very proud in the consistency and the level of quality,
Yeah.
and the willing to collaborate in sharing the words, because that's what it is.
We
They're
do have
proud.
another question just come in, Joost, from Mikhail Starchenko. How customizable are Dogger's banks? Would it be, for example, possible to put different engines upon request or change the layout plan? We have covered that, but I'll get you to answer it again if you don't mind.
No. This is absolutely possible. Yeah. Yeah. So we have seen different main engine setups, um, gearbox setups. Even now on the 77, we have a PTO PTI electrical. It can run electrically, but it can also work as a shaft generator. That's in the same inline configuration with your main engine. So there have always been different setups
Yeah,
in that respect. Um,
that's
and
quite unusual for yachts of this size, isn't it? Usually, a yacht in the kind of 70 to 100 foot range, if you go to a builder and say, I don't want to MTU engines, I want Caterpillar, they'll go, oh, sorry, we can't do that.
is, especially here within the team, the naval architects are very well capable in advising our clients also in that journey of selecting the right engine. So, engine that you see on the market, like, oh, I think that's a beautiful engine, is also for the vessel.
Yeah.
And they can advise very well on that level, and that often reveals new insight.
Yeah.
The final choice of engine. Yeah. And
Right.
question of Miguel. We've seen different layout setups, configurations, and specifically also for brokerage market, also supported with small deviations to the layout, particularly meeting their client needs. So if they have a client that demands for different setup, we can sketch that here with Vripack. Do a quick overlay, which is obviously a starting point for every project, and test the water and see how it works for that particular gentleman or lady.
Fantastic. I hope that answers your question, Mikhail. And I think that's just about it for all the questions that we've got. But thanks so much, Joost. That was really super interesting. And I did tell you, didn't I, that the questions that we get are smart questions. Like the viewers of the channel are people who really know about their yachts and are genuinely interested. So I think it was good to have you commenting on it.
Great. I'd like to take the stage for a little bit, David, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
please.
Mikhail's question. Because digging through the archives and collecting all those builds that we mentioned in the beginning of the live stream, and the numerous projects that we have here in archive, I stumbled upon even 164-foot Doggersbank.
Wow.
Came back later, then it shrinked a little bit to a smaller size, and he had another design, also called Doggersbank by Mr. Bone, which grew a little later. There have been different designs in different lengths, also above the largest one that has been built is called BO30 in the design archive. And I would really challenge people listening um, to challenge us one day with a boat of that size of the original plans of Mr. Bone, because it's great with the team here to ideate and to continue those designs and see them being realized into an actual build. Because I think with Vripack and having the team of naval architects in house and interior and exterior designers in house, we're very well capable in understanding what's needed for a true explorer, even in the size range about those 50 meters and up. And it would be great to see them being designed in the philosophy and style of the Doggersbank offshores nowadays. Yeah.
Excellent. You should publish something on Instagram, perhaps, with a picture of that yacht. Great. Thank you very much, Joost. Really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate that too. We've had 331 views, which for a live stream is pretty good actually. I'm very, very happy with that.
For any questions, visit the channel, back through us through the website doggersbank.com. We welcome any question. Feel free.
That's great. Thanks again, Joost. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Good day, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.